The Pinel building, which housed Rhode Island's forensic unit, or criminally insane hospital, until 2018. Found behind the barbed wire fence were three classifications of patient: insane, incompetent, and inmate. Insane refers to those who were sent to the forensic unit for committing a crime but being found not guilty by reason of insanity. Incompetent are those who are found incompetent to stand trial and either committed to the forensic unit or would stay until their competency was restored. Inmate refers to those who were at the ACI but required specialized psychiatric services not able to be provided there. Here on the ward, we find strange carvings in the doors. The Pinel building was originally opened in 1936 as a dormitory for males. These small rooms, which were the rooms for the forensic unit, were originally seclusion rooms at the Institute of Mental Health. It's said that this building was built as a response to a 1929 murder of their superintendent of Howard by an escaped patient. Pinel had always housed the most disturbed patients. It wasn't until the 1970s that the forensic unit was created. To get a little bit of an idea of what it might have been like on this ward, I'm going to play an excerpt from an interview that was on cable access TV in 2005. The show was called Minds That Matter, and in this interview, they interviewed Dr. Barry Wall, who is the forensic director of Elenor Slater Hospital.
Things of that nature. Can you just give me a little bit of a backdrop as to how the forensic unit operates, sort of a typical day at the forensic unit in terms of its structure and average length of stay of folks that are there, things of that nature?
Sure. The forensic unit, as I said, is a 20-bed male unit, and there are essentially three ways of having an admission to the forensic unit. You can be admitted as an incompetent to stand trial individual, which, as you say, we'll get to.
Right.
You could be admitted after being formally declared insane, legally insane, or you could also be designated for admission because you are you're an inmate who's thought to need specialized services that can't be provided over at the ACI.
Okay.
So those are the three ways that people can come in. And I refer to them as the three I's: the incompetent, the insane, or the inmate. Those are the three admissions.
Okay.
The way then that the unit is structured is that it is a hospital. The purpose of confinement is treatment, not punishment. Mm-hmm. And the individual's treatment goals are related to their mental illness. We try to provide them the services that they need to improve their mental illness, to have them go into remission in terms of their symptoms, or to cure their illness or have a full recovery when it's possible. And then we also pay attention to the forensic or medical legal aspects of the particular situation. So we have competency education groups, we'll have substance abuse groups, and this sort of thing. So everyone has a treatment plan, and their plan is tailored to what they need based on their legal status.
Okay. Now, folks that are in there, how long do they tend to stay? Is there an average length of stay at the forensic unit?
The length of stay really varies a lot. It can be as little as a few weeks, but it can be as long as many years. And again, it goes back to often what the reason for their commitment to the forensic unit is about.
Which
They are. So, for example, if they are admitted to the forensic unit because they are thought to be insane, the law has said that they are insane or not guilty by reason of insanity, it's a pretty good assumption that they'll be on the forensic unit for many years. In contrast, if someone is admitted to the forensic unit because they're recommended as incompetent to stand trial on a very minor charge, let's say trespassing, and they don't have a lengthy criminal record and that sort of thing, they may be able to be discharged back to court with treatment in as little as a few weeks.
Okay, and for someone who maybe was having a problem at the ACI and needed to have some psychiatric treatment, is there any sort of timeline around that? Just reestablish a person's stability and then have them transferred back to the prison? Or?
That is typically what the Department of Mental Health will request. Although again, we always have to think about these individuals as moving targets. They may flatten, that is, their sentence may expire while they are actually at the forensic unit, so they may not necessarily go back to the ACI. So sometimes we are looking at working on ways of planning their discharge to the community from the forensic unit rather than having them go back to the ACI.
Okay.
So it can all really depend.
All right. Now, back to the 3 I's. If we could start with the first one of incompetent or establishing competence.
Yes.
Can you tell the viewers what that means?
Well, competency is a legal construct. It is something that can be both criminal and non-criminal. So a person is competent, let's say, to execute a will, or competent to stand trial, that is to go in front of a judge and face their legal proceedings, or competent to waive their Miranda rights when they are arrested and pulled over by the side of the road. And for the general purposes of discussion, most people are presumed competent. It is only when it is thought that someone might not be competent that the legal system might request what is called a competency evaluation. And the most common competency request that comes to psychiatrists by the criminal justice system is competency to stand trial.
Okay.
Annually, across the country, there are about 60,000 competency requests per year. In Rhode Island, we have about 150 new competency requests every year, and we also have several that we have to reevaluate for various reasons, and so we end up doing several hundred of these evaluations per year. Competency to stand trial is something that is what is called a present state assessment. You're trying to see how a person is currently able to work with their lawyer and work with the judge to go to court and have some way of resolving the legal situation with their arrest. And so it is very much focused on the here and now. And this is in sharp contrast to an insanity evaluation. At an insanity evaluation, what the psychiatrist will do is they will assess the person's mental state at the time of the incident. They will, let's say, try to see what a person's mental state of mind was like when a killing occurred, when a killing was committed. And notice I'm not necessarily saying that it was a murder,
Right.
because if the judge or jury decides that a person is not guilty by reason of insanity, that means that they technically are not guilty of murder.
Okay.
So.
Here is the outdoor recreation area for the forensic unit. This fence was designed to be hard to climb. You can imagine for some admitted to this ward for years, this was their only way to get some fresh air. This area was the unit's cafeteria. Walking around the basement, I think of a story that was told to me by someone that works for Elenor Slater Hospital Group Homes. They said that after the Pinel building had closed, former patients from the forensic unit that had been released would break in and live in the basement because it was the only place familiar to them after having lived there for so many years. The building is named after French psychiatrist Philippe Pinel. Pinel is considered to be the father of modern psychiatry. He was an advocate for the humane treatment of the mentally ill. He was one of the first to stray away from the idea that mental illness was caused by demonic possession, and rather attribute it to social and environmental and biological factors. Other nearby buildings on the campus were named after other predominant figures in psychiatry, such as Dorothea Dix and Benjamin Rush. The forensic unit only occupied part of the building. The other part of the building, as seen here, were offices for the Rhode Island Department of Correction, Parole, and Home Confinement. The offices are in rooms that had once been used for male patients. This room had once contained a mock courtroom to help restore competency in individuals. Let's return to the interview with Dr. Wall to learn more about this process.
What typically will happen is that if a person is arrested somewhere in Rhode Island, they will have some sort of behavior either at the local lockup or when they appear in front of a judge or magistrate at some initial hearing. And somebody there is going to have some concern about whether a person has the mental capacity or the wherewithal to be in court at that particular moment. And judges are very concerned about this. It's important to remember that the law's sense of fairness would be violated if a person who is mentally incompetent is simply taken through the criminal justice process. And let's say they end up pleading guilty and get a sentence and go on to serve time at the adult correctional institution. This would not be a fair process. That's why judges are very concerned about competency. As a rule, when we evaluate these individuals for competency, well, you either make bail or you don't. If you don't make bail, you go to the ACI. And then a screening evaluation of competency occurs, usually within 5 days. And we let the courts know whether we think that they're mentally competent, that is, whether they're able to currently proceed back to court or not. About 80% of the time, we recommend the individual as competent, and that is a statistic that has held generally true within Rhode Island for a number of years, and it also is a statistic that holds generally true across the rest of the country. In other jurisdictions, about 70 to 90% of people are recommended to the court as competent to stand trial. It is only the incompetents that we assess that get transferred to the forensic unit. And they end up getting transferred for a legal term called competency restoration. Okay. And that's where the real work begins with these individuals. By that time, what we're saying to the court is that by reason of the person's mental illness, they are not able to be present in court because they either don't understand their charges or they have trouble understanding what's going to happen to them in court, or they don't have the ability to work with their lawyer, or they can't make decisions about their case as the court process unfolds. And so we basically temporarily suspend all of the legal proceedings until that person has received treatment, including some of the programs that I've already described to you. And then, after a time, we will recommend that person as mentally competent to stand trial. And what that means is we let the court know that we, from a medical perspective, believe that the person is now mentally ready to go back to court, so that you can unclick the pause button and have that person proceed and go right through the criminal justice system again. And most people don't understand this. They think if someone is incompetent, then that's that, and the person would never go back to court. They think that a person is somehow beating the system, and that is simply not the case. The person receives treatment for as long as it is really felt that they need treatment, and we do not recommend them to the court as competent until we really believe that they have benefited from their treatment, and we think that they're really able to go back.
Okay. Now, if a person is not deemed competent, then the whole notion we have in our world of providers, the notion of the forensic hold. A person that is not yet deemed competent could be placed under a forensic hold.
Yes.
And then remanded back into the community while they were reestablishing competency, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because we've had folks in our agency over the years that have had forensic hold status. And it allowed us the flexibility to work with some folks, knowing that if they weren't able to do it successfully, then they would be remanded back to the forensic unit for continued inpatient treatment.
Right. You raise an interesting point. Sometimes when these individuals come to our attention, we realize that the reason for their incompetency may be something like the following. Either they are developmentally delayed, they might be mentally retarded, for example, or they have such a serious form of mental illness like schizophrenia that it's going to take many, many months for them to get better. What we like to do when possible is work with an outside agency and work with the courts to come upon an agreement where that person's forensic commitment will continue to hold. They'll still be in the community under forensic commitment. but they can go out into the community, and you can spend some of the time that's necessary for that person to get better, the time that's necessary for that person to learn more about the criminal justice system. And we like to see, we like to have the person use that time to develop a good working relationship with an outside treatment provider to get them into care and treatment in the community. And when that happens, it is often successful.
By 2018, it was deemed that the forensic unit in the Pinel building should be closed due to it being unsafe and dilapidating. Conditions were considered to be inhumane. Patients would have to put towels in the windows to stop cold drafts from coming in. In a controversial move, a former juvenile detention facility was converted to become the new Elenor Slater Forensic Unit and is still in operation today. Oops. Window's wide open right here.
Yeah, I'm gonna get somebody to come over and shut it.
Nice.
I'm gonna put it down.
As of 2025, the Pinel building has been demolished. I'm fortunate to have been able to explore it. Not that the inside was particularly interesting looking, but it's fascinating to me to try to uncover some of the mysteries of what it might have been like behind these walls.